Hey, and welcome back to another video. So this is the iPad Pro 11-inch first generation, also known as the iPad Pro 11-inch 2018 model, running iPadOS 16. And in this video, we'll be going over all the important details that you need to know before upgrading your device to iPadOS 16. We'll be going over the battery life, the performance, the gaming performance, the browser performance, and then we'll be going over some of the new features that this thing got as well with iPadOS 16. However, in the interest of time, we'll be not covering every single feature. You can go on Apple's website and look that up. However, we'll be covering the more important features. So this is the iPad Pro 11-inch first generation running iPadOS 16 here in 2022. So, as always, before jumping right in, don't forget to smash that like button down below as it helps this video get on YouTube's algorithm. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and ring that bell notification button so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Also, if you have any comments or questions regarding the iPad Pro 11-inch first generation running iPadOS 16, don't forget to leave the comments or questions down below in the comment section so I can answer your questions or we can start a discussion. My social media is linked down in the description below, which includes Instagram, Discord, and Twitter. And now let's jump right into this video. Now, firstly, let's jump into some history regarding the iPad Pro 11-inch first generation. Now, of course, I'm not going to be calling it that throughout the entirety of this video. It's too long. I'll just call it the iPad Pro, but you already know what it is. We'll be talking about a bit of history first, and if you don't want to listen to the history of this device and you want to jump to a particular section that is regarding to your device, you can use the segmented slider bar. So the slider bar is segmented into many sections: performance, browser performance, gaming, blah 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 blah. So you can jump to whichever section you like. So this thing, as the name suggests, was launched in 2018 alongside the 12.9-inch iPad Pro as well. And this is the first generation with the slimmer bezel design without the physical home button as well. This is the stuff with the Face ID, the first generation with the slimmer bezel design and Face ID alongside the 12.9-inch model as well. This is the 11-inch model, but of course the two of them are the same, and they're the same apart from, of course, the size. And this thing was released with iOS 12 when it was called iOS. So it was called iOS 12, and now it's upgradable to iPadOS 16.1. This is currently running 16.1. It has the Apple A12X Bionic based on a 7nm process. It's an octa-core processor, and it has an Apple GPU with 7-core graphics. Came in multiple storage options: 64 gigs, 256 gigs, 512 gigs, and 1 terabyte. This is the 64 gig model, and only the 1 terabyte model actually had 6 gigs of RAM. The 64, 256, and 512 models didn't have 6 gigs of RAM. They only had 4 gigs of RAM. And this thing has a 120 hertz display as well, along with the 12.9-inch model, but I've turned off the 120 hertz because it just wastes battery and I don't really use this for anything but college work. And yeah, so that's just a quick history rundown on the iPad Pro first generation 2018 model, or iPad Pro first generation 11-inch model. But most of what I say in this video also applies to the 12.9-inch model, because the majority of the differences are just with the size. So now let's just go on to general performance and app performance on iPadOS 16. So, general OS performance and app performance. If you want a quick answer, has it slowed down or sped up since the update? I can tell you right off the bat, after using it for about 1.5 days, this thing is exactly the same as it was on iPadOS 15. I cannot tell you any difference since the update to iPadOS 16. I've been using it throughout the latter part of the 24th. The entire day of the 25th, I used it for YouTube and doing my college work and all that stuff. And today's the 26th of October, as you can see there. So about 1.5 days since the update, which was on the 24th around mid-noon. So about 1.5 days of using this constantly, and I can say right off the bat, this thing is exactly the same as it was on iPadOS 15. Now, as you can see, the apps are all closed in the background. Let's load some apps and see how they work. All apps have been updated to their latest version, so they work properly. Safari loads almost instantaneously. OneNote, which I use to take my notes. Books, again, almost instantaneously. YouTube Studio, really fast there. Snapdraw, again, really fast there. And then let us now do the home app, again, almost instantaneously there. And let us open multitasking. As you can see there, let's open Safari. Let's try and multitask here. Let us bring the Books app here to multitasking. There you go. No lag whatsoever. It just works perfectly fine. Let's move it to the side there, resize some windows here. There you go. No lag or stutter. Everything seems to be working. Let's go to Apple's website on this side. As you can see, everything works just fine. And then we can close that, close, move to full screen over here, close that, multitasking. As you can see, everything works and loads just fine. So yeah, the performance on this thing is exactly the same as it was on iPadOS 15. So you don't have to worry if this thing has slowed down, because it hasn't. It is exactly the same as on iPadOS 15. Alright, now it's time for the game demo, and I have selected here Asphalt 9, which is a really good game benchmark for any device. I did it also on my iOS 16 reviews for the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 12 Pro Max that I did around last month when those were released. So we'll be doing it for iPadOS 16 here as well. As you can see, nothing else is open in the background, and let's load the app. I'll cover the top of the screen there a bit because of the player ID. And there you go, the game is done loading. Now I'll go ahead and set up a game and be right back. Alright, so we have a race set up here, and I've turned off the music for copyright reasons, but engine sounds and other FX sounds will actually play in the background, so that's fine. I have to point out that this game sometimes is randomly stuttery, and that's not because of the device. You can load this onto a brand new release device and it'll still stutter. That's just how Asphalt 9 and a lot of older Asphalt games are by nature. So just keep that in mind. If it stutters, it's not the device's fault, it's just how the game is. So let's jump into this race. So there you go. There was a bit of stutter, like I mentioned, but that's usually at the beginning of some races, but it kind of smoothens out over time. And as you saw at the beginning, the entire game also loaded pretty fast. So gaming on this thing should be a breeze. You should be perfectly fine playing PUBG, Call of Duty, I think Apex Mobile, if it even runs on this thing, I don't know. Let me know down in the comments if Apex works on the iPad. I don't know. I don't play too many mobile games. But yeah, if this runs, most of the other games should also run fine. It is now time for the browser demo, and again, all apps have been closed in the background. Launch Safari. Let's go to Apple's website, which is probably the heaviest website you can technically imagine launching here in 2022, as far as I can tell. I mean, of course, there are definitely heavier websites, but Apple's website is a commonly visited website that a lot of people can actually go ahead and visit, and it actually does take a lot to load. Older devices have trouble loading this website. As you can see, everything just loads and runs just fine. It's smooth, it's buttery, no lag whatsoever, loads and all that stuff just fine. Let's go to Mac here. There you go. No lag or stuttering. All the animations and logos and images, everything just loads almost instantaneously there. Let's go to displays there. Let's check out the new iPad. Where is that? Which makes no sense on so many levels, because it has an Apple Pencil Gen 1 support, but it has a USB-C port So you cannot charge the pencil without a lightning port. So you have to have USB-C to lightning, a converter, and that's the only way you can charge it. So makes no sense whatsoever, but whatever. That's just a quick rant that I wanted to put out. But yes, you can see everything loads and all that stuff just fine. Let's go to Nokia's website. So Nokia, there we go. Here's the browser, works just fine, scrolls just fine. Let me hold it like that so I don't touch the screen. There you go, loads and all that stuff just fine, scrolls just fine as well. Let's go to Nokia's website here. There you go, loads almost instantaneously. All the animations and everything load just fine, except all. Let's see, G400, there you go. So yeah, that's the browsing experience. It's exactly the same as it was on iPadOS 15. So if you're wondering, has a browsing slowed down? It hasn't. Actually, browsing is something that will outlast the support life of this iPad. iPads, after many years of support life, the browser is what keeps them running because people use them for their browsers. I've seen some people still use iPad 2s just for browsing. And I'm not talking about the Air 2, I'm talking about the iPad 2. As long as it still connects to the Wi-Fi, it's still good to go. So yeah, that is the browsing demo. Now, I do a Face ID test for you, but as you can see, my iPad is heavily damaged and one of the cracks on the display is going through one of the sensors, so Face ID is automatically disabled, so I cannot do a Face ID test for you, so sorry about that. But I can now talk about the battery performance on this thing, and battery life, I kind of want to say it's gotten better. Now, like I said, I used this quite heavily yesterday on the 25th and throughout the 24th as well, and it was fully charged on the 24th because while it was updating, I left it to charge, and now around midday of or around noon of the 26th, so 1.5 days later, or actually 2 days later, because yeah, it's the 24th noon, around the same time when I charged it, and then on to the 25th noon, that's one day, and now the 26th noon. Of course, I didn't use this that much this morning. However, yesterday throughout the day, I used this quite heavily. It was on battery saver mode sometimes, and sometimes I turned off battery saver mode as well. And the 120 hertz, sometimes I restrict it to 60, but sometimes I don't as well. I do it at random. When I'm watching YouTube videos, I keep it at 60, but when I'm scrolling and browsing and stuff, I do keep it at 120 hertz. You can actually toggle that through settings. So a good mix of use on battery saver and off battery saver, and now it's 67% as of the 26th midday. Of course, there are considerably more heavier users than me, but that's as far as I can tell, and I'm trying to say that it's a bit better. It's definitely not worse, but do I want to put it out as a bit better? It's really hard to tell. I mean, I do use this heavily quite often from a day-to-day basis. I don't always pay attention to the battery, but I can say maybe slightly better. Let's say it was on 15, maybe it would be at about 60% at this point after 2 days of similar use. But just take that with a grain of salt. However, it definitely has not dropped in battery performance, so that's a good thing. It may have increased slightly a bit more, and if you have the 12.9-inch model, let me know down in the comment section how that has affected your battery so other people can also see and make their decision. So yeah, that is battery performance and battery life. It hasn't degraded, but as a matter of fact, it could have actually increased a bit more, but I cannot confirm. Alright, so now that the more important stuff is out of the way, let's talk about some new features. Now, of course, I'm not going to cover all the new features on this thing in the interest of time, but let's cover the more major features. So your photos, you have the finally, like I mentioned earlier, in my iPhone 11 and iPhone 12 Pro Max video, the iCloud shared photo library is now available. So you have that, you can share libraries, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't interest me too much, but you have that option there as well. Smart ways to share, that has been changed. And messages, you can edit messages, of course, like on iOS 16. And oh, people may be wondering, can you customize the lock screen on this thing? Sadly, you can't. Unlike iOS 16, you cannot customize the lock screen on iPadOS 16. So that's kind of a bummer. I thought that would be just like a side thing and something so easy to do because it was already being done on iOS 16, and you'd think that iPadOS 16 would get it too, but that was kind of a bummer. You cannot edit the lock screen or change the fonts of the clock and all that stuff. Sadly, you can't. Maybe iPadOS 17, they might bring it later, but I think that was something they could have easily done, but I don't know why they didn't. But regardless, these are the other features. And SharePlay, richer collaboration, Mail, so you have more options in Mail and stuff. Safari and passkeys, shared tab groups. This thing was something that a lot of people were waiting for, passkeys and tab groups. And then here's my favorite thing, Stage Manager multitasking, or so it's just called Stage Manager, but it's essentially multitasking. So how you turn it on is you pull down like this, and that is your Stage Manager. So let's do that again. Pull down, Stage Manager, turn on, and then it goes into this mode-like thing. This is somewhat like multitasking, and then you can open another app like that, and actually let us open that, and it goes into a mode like that. As you can see, you can also open another window, add another window for this is basically window based, by the way. So you can add another window. Let us actually do OneNote there, and then you can shuffle between windows like that, or you can edit, and there you go, stuff like that. Or you can actually move these around like that. You can also minimize, so you can minimize that, and then it goes into this side view like thing, as you can see there. So it's basically a form of multitasking, and it explains everything here, but I really like it, and I think it's really useful since you can have things open overlaying each other like that. Let us do that again. So we can minimize that as well. Goes back, then you can open this and it goes back to your stuff. Then there you go, you can go to your multitasking as well, open that. I wouldn't call it multitasking, but it does feel like multitasking. So you can have that option as well. There you go, you can drag it and bring it back, and that is your all new stage view, or Stage Manager is what they call it. And then to turn it off, you can go ahead and tap that again, or you can do that from settings, and when you turn it off, it goes back to your old school multitasking like that. So yeah, that's a new option that I think I'll use quite a lot following the update from iPadOS 16. So Stage Manager is there. You can switch between apps and do all this stuff. Create your ideal workspace like that. So that's your thing. So if that's your thing, you can do it. So external display support as well. It's coming later this year, so stay tuned for that. And then new display modes. You can change font sizes and display scaling in settings as well. So that's there. The weather app is finally available on iPad, and you can use the widgets as well. So that's good. The weather app has been not on iPad for a long time, so you can go ahead into the full scale app and use it, and all your data and stuff is there. The games app got a redesign. SharePlay got some work. Intelligence got some work. The home app, of course, was also upgraded with a few more things. We have climate light, blah 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 blah, all that stuff. So there's Matter support as well added to the home app. Family sharing got some upgrades, and of course the desktop class apps thing, more countless apps for productivity, desktop class as they call it. Freeform is there as well. It is coming later this year. It's a live collaboration app designed by Apple. So it's somewhat like Google Docs, but Apple is doing that. So it's an Apple app based for live collaboration. You can be doing one thing on one iPad here, and the other guy at his house can be doing the same thing on his iPad. So Freeform is a productivity app that lets where you and your collaborators can bring ideas to life, sketch and jot down notes with an Apple Pencil, share files, insert web links and all that stuff. It's real-time collaboration, as you can see there. And privacy and security, of course, this thing also came. You can finally now in photos, like in iOS 16, you can lock your hidden and recently deleted behind a passcode or Face ID. Of course, my Face ID doesn't work, so it's either passcode or Face ID, and you can lock those behind that. So those are just some general features that came on iPadOS 16. Not so exciting as iOS 16, but still, the stage thing was quite nice, and the live collaboration thing I might use as well. So those were the general new features. Of course, if you want to see all the features, you can go to new features and read all of the new features, but there's just so much. I'm not going to cover all of it. So yeah, this was iPadOS 16 on the iPad Pro 11-inch 2018 model, or the iPad Pro 11-inch first generation. It also applies for the 12.9-inch, of course. Let me know down below which version you have, whether you have the 11-inch or the 12.9-inch. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this video also helped you in your upgrading decision. And if you honestly like this video, don't forget to smash that like button down below, as it helps this video get on YouTube's algorithm. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and ring that bell notification button so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. If you have any comments or questions, don't forget to leave them down below. We can start a discussion, or I can answer your questions. My social media is linked down in the description below, which includes Instagram, Discord, and Twitter. Thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next video.